So we were talking before, Danny, your 3D printer in the back. It's an FL Sun, is that right?
Yeah,
And
that
it's a filament dryer. And you were saying, I just thought it was interesting. You're saying the filament dryer helps the most when it comes to really small, precise details on 3D prints. Is that right?
yeah, that's the thing. When you have a moisture inside the filament, you may not see it when you're printing more bulky, let's say it like this. And for me, every print is bulky except mine because mine is microscopic.
Right.
But it makes your nozzle, when it goes to the nozzle, it expands a little bit the filament because it's exploding from the heat inside. And when there is a lot of moisture in your filament, you see it
Mhm.
like a blobs on your print. It's rarely that bad, but even when it's some additional, you can see not smooth lines, and this can be because of that.
I see. And are you primarily printing with PLA?
At the moment, yes, because it's the easiest to print material and because it would fulfill my needs. But I started with ABS and I was printing ABS for 9 years, only ABS.
Oh, wow. And did you find that you had to dry ABS just as much or if more than
Our
PLA?
ABS is really, it needs really to be dry and it should be well protected when you keep it. So I was keeping this in a airtight container with silica bags. There were no dryers back then, but
Yeah.
with such keeping, it was lasting long. Otherwise, in few weeks, you won't be able to print it. It absorbs a lot of moisture.
Oh, wow. So yeah, a lot of chemical material things to keep in mind as you're printing. And also, I'm curious because it looks like it's a Delta machine. Do you find that the Delta machine is more accurate or better? Probably maybe prints a little faster than typical Cartesian printers.
So they said that Delta machines can be faster. For speed, for sure, this is faster than all the printers I
Yeah,
had
didn't you say like
before.
400 millimeters per second, something crazy like
Yeah,
that?
400 millimeters per second. But there are also the other type, the regular machines with such speed. And what I have seen, the prints from them are also very good quality. But I think Delta is the more precise machine if it's set up correctly.
Delta is the more precise machine.
Yeah,
Interesting. And but I'm assuming you have some other Cartesian machines as well, right?
I had at the moment I'm just with the Delta. I
Okay.
started with Ultimaker 2.
Okay.
As I said, it was more than 10 years ago. And at this point, this was the great machine that you can buy for
Right.
low budget. It lasts in my hands pretty long because I was maintaining it well. But at some point, it really started having issues. And I said, okay, there is no point to upgrade or to repair anymore. Better to buy us something new
Hmm.
because the technology was evolving really fast. And I went to Creality CR6. I was really happy also with this machine. But my first personal machine, because these two were on work, my first personal machine was really cheap, Elego
Yeah.
Neptune 2S. You need a lot of patience with such a machine to make it print
Right.
good, but it can print good. That's the thing. Any printer can print good.
I think that's
Just
good for a first machine, though. Something that you really have to get your hands dirty and learn how it works. I think it helps in the long run. Um, I think that's how
yeah,
it was for me. I had to rebuild my first machine a bunch of times, but I think it helped.
this definitely helps because when you start with a great machine and you're scared to touch here and there, and especially the lower budget machines or the middle class machines, uh, they're not uh, they're not set up like plug and play. Every person can operate it. This you have only on the industrial grade machines, which are quite pricey.
Yeah.
But I don't like this in the industrial grade machines. I have played for some time with such, and you don't have control on all. I mean, there is some preset up, and you go with
Right.
that.
Definitely. Um, I mean, I could pick your brain on 3D printing all day. I really would love to do that, but we're a couple minutes in. So we want to welcome everyone in the chat to this week's episode of SOLIDWORKS Live Design. And we're going to be talking with a SOLIDWORKS legend, this year's SOLIDWORKS Champion of the Year. And she's going to be telling us about her 3D design process. So really excited to get into that. My name's Noah Zief. I'm your host for this week, and I'm an industry process consultant here at Dassault Systems. So we'll get right into it. Danny, can you tell us a little bit about what this episode's going to be? I think it was a donut competition, right, where you had to make this model?
Yeah, actually, it was a Donut Master Challenge. It was called. It's something that Matthew prepared for the champions. And he made this challenge as the idea we get a little bit more into X apps and try to build something which is not traditional. And of course, because all the champions are users with a lot of experience, to find the flows and pros of the X apps. And I find this is a great idea. And what I decided to share today is a bit about my start with X apps, what were the troubles that I was facing, and to explain what are the major differences, because when you start using it, it looks similar to SolidWorks and you expect it to act like SolidWorks, but it's not.
Right. Yeah, definitely some differences there. Some good things, some challenges, definitely a growing application, but you definitely get to make some really cool stuff like this. I hope everyone in the chat had something to eat this morning, because you're going to get hungry looking at this model. I'm already. I wish I had a donut right now. So yeah, this is it, and this was made in xShape primarily, right?
Yeah, this was done in xShape completely, not just primarily.
Okay.
And what was the first thing? I wanted to put my hands on xShape, because people that know me, they know I make really not standard products, things which are not for SolidWorks. And this is the things I do for fun. And yeah, xShape is the thing which is having the tools which I miss in SolidWorks, or I don't miss in SolidWorks almost anything, but it's hard to use in SolidWorks. But what was the first thing that I saw with the X apps is I wasn't sure how to work with this menu here. When I was trying to add something as a body, what we have in SolidWorks as a multi-body part, and I was actually opening a new physical part, and I was really getting angry on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that this is one of the major differences. Here you can have multi-assemblies, but if you want to have something similar to multi-body, this is called ordered geometrical set. This is for me what is closest to separating a body with its own functions, more or less. And this is how I divided my donut on different sets, so I can control the colors. You can control the color of complete set, or otherwise you have to go phase by phase, which for part like this is really, really hard process, especially for the sprinkles on the top.
So to make it easier to add all these colors, you organize the parts by color, and then you were able to color that set just in one click. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. You still can color different faces, like the main donut. It's this dark brown, but these faces on top are a lighter brown. I didn't divide this in a different body. I made them one by one, and these faces I can change the color hard. But for the rest, like the main donut, if I wish now, I can make it just purple. Oops, I clicked something by mistake. Okay, yeah.
Or maybe can we change the color of the icing? I know you did that previously.
Oh, I think I did. Glazing. Okay. It seems I made faces before that. That's why. That's.
There it is.
Yeah, for the main body, I have colored the faces. It's getting purple only here.
Okay.
So after that, I found a geometrical set.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And for the view, when you showed it before, are you also able to change the view so we don't see the corner lines, so it looks almost like a more realistic product?
Yeah, sure. And this one is actually quite easy. You go down here on view. At the beginning, on view mode, I was always opening this window and returning it back. But then I found that just I can drag it and drop it here, and it comes as a tab. And this is also something I find is very comfortable feature in
That looks
X
awesome.
apps. Yeah. And I assume every menu that is popping out, you can just drag and drop it there and access it more easier.
So coming from SolidWorks, obviously the subdivision modeling is a bit different. What would you say were some of the biggest challenges or the biggest hurdles to get over when it came to designing this?
And talking specifically for xShape,
Mhm.
uh, you should start thinking how to build your model in completely different way. So it's more like sculpting, but it's also different than the sculpting software because there, for example, you have you're operating like you have hands when you push. There is a whole area that is
Right.
pushing, and in the case of xShape, you can choose a point and manipulate this point. You can choose edge. You can choose a lot of edges at once, which is giving a great control, but you have to imagine which shape you will manipulate to what you want. In the case of the donut, it's really easier because you have such shape. But when I was making the egg, for example, I made actually egg character called ugly.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the feet, I wasn't sure what was the correct shape, and then I decided that the rectangular or yeah, the cube, the box is the most suitable to start for the feet. You have just to stretch it here and there, push this dot, the other dot, and that's the hard part when you're planning a harder shape. You should decide from which you can sculpt that the easiest way.
Gotcha. So have some sort of plan of attack when you're coming at these models, different from what you would have with SolidWorks. That makes sense. And for anyone in the chat that doesn't know or hasn't seen it yet, the character you made, Oogly, is that on your YouTube channel as well?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube channel as well.
So definitely check that out. D Workshop, which is Danny's YouTube channel. So that was that your first crack at xShape, and is this donut the second project then you've done?
No, Ugly actually was my second project
Okay.
and the first project that I did. Now I will try to show it. A little bit after 3D Experience World, I was contacted from a person from SolidWorks that I met on 3D Experience, a really nice lady. And she actually asked me to make her, let's say it like this, a mesh flower because she know my daisy flower. And because she wanted that for a surprise. And then I did this for her.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
Very
this is
cool.
a card that was sent with gifts to every person that contributed to the social media channels of SolidWorks. Uh, I did too, so I received also a card with the flower. But this was the very first model that I did in xShape to have these
Cool.
lines.
Well, the flower looks great. Obviously, this donut looks super appetizing. So, when you started off making the shape, did you start off with just like a digital ball of clay? Was it a ball shape, a box shape? How did you start off?
No, that's the great thing because you have a choice of shapes. You don't have just one. So you have a box, quad ball, cylinder, globe, torus, cone, and pyramid. And of course, the donut is coming out of torus. And I can go back to the main shape, I think. Yes.
Okay, so you started off with a torus subdivision model. So you
Yeah.
had a lot of the shape already there for you with this primitive.
Yeah, and then it was really easy because I just positioned myself like in this viewpoint, grab all these points here, or the other option is to grab line by line.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a top look and you take the dot, not the arrow, you can manipulate the shape. With the arrow, you move, with the dot, you scale.
Very cool. And it looks like
And
it updates really quickly too in the user interface.
yeah, it is. It is updating fast, and it's really easy to use. And you can change the angle and to adjust it nicely. It's really easy and straightforward. Um, and that's for the xShape and this type of shapes. If you have some more questions here, I would like to say what was the other difference which I saw with all the X apps.
Mm-hmm.
And no?
Oh, looks like we're processing here. Um,
Yeah.
but I was also curious, the icing you had, is that a different subdivision shape, or did you kind of offset that from the original donut?
This is offset.
Okay.
This is offset from the original. While it's processing, unfortunately, I cannot show that.
That's okay.
Once your shape is ready, you can leave it as a surface, or you can make it a body.
Mm-hmm.
You can decide if you want to combine it with the next shape you place inside. You can also place normal features like extrude boss, extrude cut directly. Yeah, it's
So
slowly updating.
all the familiar commands you have from SolidWorks right in xShape. Is that right?
Yes, the familiar commands you have right in xShape and in xDesign. What was the other difficulty which I saw on first with xDesign, because I tried the xDesign first, it's closer to SolidWorks. I was looking for some features and I wasn't able to find them. But it's not that X apps don't have them. Just what we are used to see as different menus like sheet metal or surfaces. I would say xShape is the modern surface modeling. Uh, for sheet metal, you have different tab, which is for sheet metal. For weldments, you have
Right.
a different tab. So you have to learn that in these apps, you have just different apps for the different areas of modeling.
Gotcha. Okay. And we also have a question in the chat. Is this making a solid, or is this just making a surface? And I'm assuming that means for the entire model with the donut, with the icing. Are these all just surfaces?
In this case, it's a solid.
A solid.
You can choose if you want it a surface or you want it a solid. If you knit it, I will just pick something which is later, maybe. So I was working with surfaces, but let's go back to the view and we'll make a section view. And you can see it's a solid.
Okay. So would you say this is manufacturer ready if you wanted to send this to a 3D printer?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Awesome.
You can print that directly. And as I said, like in SolidWorks, you may work with surfaces, then knit them together, make them solid bodies, and group them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't group my bodies because I wanted to be able to control the colors. And after my changes, you can see here that actually I lost my fillet now, but I can fix that later.
Okay. And we also have another question in the chat. Is there any way to transform a solid body into a subdivisions field?
That's a really good question to which, unfortunately, I don't have an answer. I tried to do that, but
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to find it. Um, You can work with subdivision model. For now, what I know is just when you make it here. If you know something more, Noah, I will be glad to hear it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you don't need to do that. If you're going to work with the subdivision models, better to start building them here and to manipulate in the way you want.
I completely agree. I would say probably the best way to go about that is if you bring in your sub-D body or your solid body, then you want to try and bring in a subdivision primitive and match the shape of your solid body as best you can. And that also works if you want to bring in images as well. I've seen people do that if they want to drag their subdivision body to match an image. So you have your torus that you started off making the donut shape. You offset the torus to make the icing. It looks like we have some other components too, some sprinkles and the bite. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so the sprinkles are actually cylinders with fillets. And the sugar spheres, as I call them, are
Sugar spheres.
spheres.
Okay.
The good thing is I will just start one of these operators now. Is when you have some solid, or maybe even when you have a surface, you can match the new model to come on any point of it. So you're
Oh, so
not
you could
starting in the
snap it
center.
to an existing shape.
Yeah, so I can say that the center will be on this point or here on this edge. And when I click once, then I can scale it down.
Very cool. So each one of these sprinkles then is a different subdivision body. Is that right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's correct. And once I'm ready with that, of course, I can move it, but I have to go to the next step. Now it's giving me all the manipulations I can do with that. And I see it's a bit too much in, then I use the arrow and take it out a little bit. And then I click OK. I even took it out too much, but it's not a problem because you can just go back, mark all the points, and oops, not scale it, position it again. And it's for me, it's pretty easy. Now it went in the group of the yellow.
Oh, I see. So we have a yellow
Sprinkles.
sugar sphere.
We have a yellow sugar sphere. Yeah.
And I also see a circular pattern there. So you made one and then circular pattern. You find that also in desktop SolidWorks, right?
Yes, you find this also in desktop SolidWorks, but it was a bit more than that. For that reason, I have to go to the first one. So I know when I moved them, I was making different cylinders and circular pattern individually. This is again to control the color. I was able to do more and just use one circular pattern, but they all will be one color then. You have also the linear pattern. And you have to look for these patterns in assembly. This is the linear pattern.
Okay.
This was also a bit strange for me because the feature level, let's say it like this, is assembly or features. And yeah, there are
Okay, so it's
different
all
things.
built right in under the features tab. And then if you ever just want to go back to your subdivision, you could just go to the subdivision tab, add a new SubD body. But you're never that far from what you know in SolidWorks, right?
Subdivision is something completely different and new, but features, there are really a lot of common features. They act almost the same way. There are small differences, like when you want up to surface, you won't see up to surface. When you want to extrude up to surface, you have to choose extrude up to body.
Okay.
I think it was called. This was something that for me was hard to find at the beginning. I think also that in xShape there are a bit more features than I have here. The basic ones are for both. But if you want to go to the more SolidWorks part, you have to go to Switch App and just go to XDesign. And then you will have the classical surface menu for SolidWorks, knitting, again, the features, and yeah, different, not different, most are the same, but surfaces and features, I think there were some differences, some were missing in the xShape.
Okay. Yeah, I use that X hotkey a lot as well, being able to switch from XDesign to xShape or any one of the different X apps. So really powerful button there. We also have another question in the chat. Maybe you could shed some light on, Danny. Can the net surface command provide us with the ability to create a custom subdivision body? So something different than a typical primitive.
I'm actually pretty new. Also, as I said, this was my third model.
Right. Well,
Net surface.
Yeah, it should be there next to the box.
Yeah, this one here.
There it is.
Okay.
So I actually have used this command a couple times. It's something new to xShape, and it works very similar to a sweep command. So if you have two profiles and you have a curve along them, you could just sweep to make some 3D geometry. You can actually do that in xShape, and that way you can make an entirely new subdivision body.
So we have this and this, like a sweep. I never used that. Oh, yeah. Great. So maybe that's the way you can transfer. There was earlier question. You cannot convert the solid body that you have, but you can trace it.
Right, that's a great point. That could be good for converting a solid body. Exactly.
Yes, you can trace it.
And also where you're focusing on now, I was curious about this bite shape because it doesn't look like, a regular circle bite. It looks like it has some teeth marks, or, it's trying to fit the contour of whoever's mouth bit into it. How did you make that a regular shape?
That's why I prefer to work with solids. I'm really used to that. It's a revolve cut, but it's a bit offset revolve cut.
Okay.
So it's not right in the middle. To make it more realistic, when you bite, it's not going straight. You're making it curve in and curve out. That's why I made a bit offset revolve cut, which I mirrored on the bottom side, and then just add a few fillets.
Very cool. And then you colored those faces individually. Is that right?
Yes. It seems I have colored all the faces individually for this donut. That's why I wasn't able for the main shape to change the color. I found this with
I see.
the groups later.
Right. And we got another question here. How did you make the icing? Sean wants to know a little bit more about the icing. It looks like a lot of unique contours. Great question.
It's first I offset the upper part only of the donut, and then it's just a cut, trim.
Oh, you did a cut. I see.
It's a trim. So that's the shape of the trim that I have. Let's have a look from this angle and just cut through it.
Interesting. So I guess when I first saw the shape, I was picturing like you pulling out the drop of icing a little bit around the donut. But this is a lot simpler. You just kind of made a simple cut, and it looks so realistic.
Yeah, when you're looking on the donut, this side looks a bit fake, but when you're positioning it for a photo, you use a certain angle, and that's why I have the bite here. And this looks more realistic than just, and it's easy. I like simple solutions.
Right. I think think most engineers like that as well. And as you mentioned, you put the icing and the don't and the bite where it would look best for a photo, and you also turn this into a photorealistic render. Is that right?
Yes. For photorealism, I still have to learn how to use the materials, or actually how to create the material. That's the big question we have around.
Mhm.
But for now, I can work just with the colors, so changing the color, which is a bit of restriction, but still it looks surprisingly good. Before we go there, I would just want to delete the extra surface.
Mhm.
That's the X
Oh wow!
Studio, and that's the easiest way to render that I have tried so far.
Okay, so it looks like you duplicated the donut, and the box was that made in X Design as well.
The box is done is in the sheet metal
Oh, and
feature.
sheet metal. Okay, a
Oh,
very
this session
robust
is
donut
fun.
box.
Uh, Normally, sheet metal is really comfortable if you want to make a paper box because
Oh,
you
okay.
can have the flat pattern and just order it. It's not only for metal sheets.
Okay.
If you have enough imagination.
Right.
I just went from the apps. I went to the sheet metal one and created the box. So actually, I created first a higher level of model in which I put the donuts because it's easier to multiply them in this way. Then created the box and the top, then went to X Design and put the ribbon and the back seal with SolidWorks Champions.
Very cool. And the seal looks like it has some nice curvature to it. Was that an X-shaped part?
No, that's in X Design. That's fillet.
Oh, fill command. Okay.
It's a fillet. One thing which I wasn't able to find, and I really didn't want to play. In xShape, I can do it better, for sure,
Hmm.
but just wanted to make it faster and simple. That's why it's just extrude balls and fillets around.
Very cool. Well, it looks great, and it looks like so you have one render of all four of them. I think when you submitted the donut, you submitted two different versions, right? Was it the
Yes.
pink version and the blue version?
Uh, yeah, but you have to make them individually. I think when you put a different scene before you update, they will look different. At the moment I update with the latest version, as you can see here, the donuts are not with the bite, but I
Oh, I see.
already changed that back. And I have to hit that button here to reload from the database, and they will come all with the new version. For now, it's keeping the version in which I opened that, but you can update it fast when you make some changes just with reload from database button.
Okay.
So yeah, here it is. Here's the sheet metal feature, the box. Okay, not the top. The top is more dummy in this case. It's just solid. Sometimes I cheat too.
They're just tricks of the trade, and it looks like the sheet metal comes in just as a feature in your design manager in XDesign, which is really
Yes,
convenient.
that's true. It comes as a feature. And because this is done in the same file and in the same part, that's why the flat pattern is coming after my two models.
Hmm.
But there is a nice button here when you're in a sheet metal. And as I said, the good thing is I just can switch the app and look
Wow.
for the.
And was this your first time experimenting with X sheet metal, or had you used it before?
Oh, absolutely the first time.
Absolutely the first time. Wow. So up and running pretty quickly then.
Well, it's really close to SolidWorks sheet metal, kind of. It's similar features that you have there. Not that I have much experience with SolidWorks sheet metal,
And
but
was
let's
this
say it's enough.
also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I said it, but it was enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was this also your first time using? There's a lot of different apps, a lot of different softwares we're tackling here, so I just want to make sure we hit on all of them. Was this also your first time using XStudio to render this?
XStudio, the Danute, yes, actually, it was the first time. But for XStudio, I went through the tutorial first,
Okay.
and most of the icons here, they're pretty easy to understand what they mean. So that's, for example, for additional adjustment of the camera, if you want to set some values. This is to export. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And when I point here and see a render job monitor and I just hit it for the donut and I said, okay, and you can see here all my render jobs done so far.
Very cool.
These are the donuts that you saw before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to get more stick time with XStudio because the renders that come out of it are just really beautiful. They do your models a lot of justice.
Yeah, and it was easy, but I closed my XStudio by mistake. It's just few clicks, and then you wait. You have to wait until the render is ready.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's too slow. It's not too fast too, but results are really good.
Right.
And you don't have much settings, so you don't need experience to do something good looking out of that. You just have to click few buttons, and that's it.
Got it. So how much time would you say it took you, I guess, first just to get up and running with xShape because it's so different from typical SolidWorks parametric modeling? What was that learning curve like in terms of time?
For the flower, which was the first, and because I'm crazy and don't start with something simple, I needed a few hours to get used to the features at all.
Mm-hmm.
But like maybe 2 hours, not more than that. I wouldn't say that after these 2 hours I knew exactly what I was doing. But with every additional attempt, which was few minutes or half hour or 1 hour, it was getting better
Right. So a couple hours to
and
get
easier.
started. And would you say a similar learning curve for X Metal and XStudio?
XSheet Metal is really close to SolidWorks metal sheet. So I think for this one, it was really easy to work with. I don't need some very special features. I still didn't find a way how to change the contour of something that is bent. But for really basic things, I just wanted to show the box in flat condition. That's why I came here.
Oh, so you can show what the folding would be like.
Yeah, the flat pattern. And just put it back. It seems I have it 2 times, but you have flat pattern just like in regular SolidWorks. You start with a base sketch, then you make a wall. In this case, it's a different name, but it's really easy to see where it is. The good thing is when you define it here, you define from the start what's your thickness and what will be the bending radius from the start. In SolidWorks, I really still don't know where and when they're defined, and I have to go edit and change them.
Okay.
While here was easier. When I just started making the sheet itself, and it asked me, what's your thickness? What will be your bending radius?
Right. So you really took it a step further here because I could be wrong, but I thought the competition, the donut competition, you needed to use xShape, xDesign, and xStudio. So you took it a step further and included xSheet metal. Is that right?
Oh, no, for the competition, it was just the donut. But when we decided to make this episode, and I said, okay, let's have a look around and give something more to the people. And this is when I did the 4 donuts with the box.
Got it.
This was done in, I think, less than an hour.
Oh, wow. And how long do you think this would have taken in SolidWorks?
Less than an hour. I have quite experience with SolidWorks.
That's fair. We also have another good question in the chat. Again, going back to getting started in Subdivision, what would be the main tips to start modeling in Subdivision?
The main tip will be stop thinking how is my contour of that and how to make with this contour and this edge to this contour and that edge, more or less, because this you can do with normal surfaces. Start thinking what I can manipulate to the shape I want and how I should do that. It's a really different approach. It's not like building up, but taking something bigger and reducing and remodeling and reshaping. It's completely different approach. This is the thing to which I'm trying to get used to, and it's still not so easy. But once you realize that that's a different way you have to work here, the things are getting much, much easier.
And with your experience, in the engineering field and the projects you work on, do you think this Subdivision tool, is beneficial to a typical SolidWorks user? Another tool that they can add to their tool set?
That's for sure. Working with surfaces, it's not so easy. I see a lot of people are struggling there, and usually they spend a lot of time to achieve what they want with surfaces. Well, sometimes you need more artistic work, especially with the modern shapes that we have, with the ergonomics, and such app as xShape would be a great help in such designs.
Definitely. And we have we just posted in the chat a 3D Sculptor course, which we definitely recommend for people trying to get up and running, mastering that surface modeling technique. What types of resources did you use to get up and running with xShape? Did you take an online course, or did you look at YouTube videos, or did you just jump in right away and just start exploring?
I just jump and start exploring, but I do have access to the educational database, and I do believe there is a great material there where I can learn a lot of the things that can be helpful. But first, I like to have a grip by myself, to explore by myself, because if you jump directly in a course without seeing the program, can be it has some positive to jump directly to feel it by yourself, and especially if you jump with a shape like this. I always recommend not to learn modeling techniques with the shape that you need. If I want to learn how to make a box and I watch a video how to make a box and make a box, I won't learn the parameters that I need. I won't learn the features. I won't learn the apps. Actually, I will learn how to copy a box. If you want to really learn the features that you're using, either jump directly and explore, or try with not standard shapes. And once you have a little bit idea what you're doing in this app, then go to the tutorials and start learning.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great advice too. I tried doing what you did at first. I just tried jumping in, and I got a little bit lost because it's so different from standard parametric SolidWorks. Xdesign, I think it's a much easier jump. A lot of those typical commands like boss, extrude, but for xShape, that's something we're really trying to build out. So we have a lot of things in the pipeline in terms of creating xShape tutorials so we can get designers like yourself up and running even quicker. Now that you have kind of the basic understanding, maybe even more advanced understanding of xShape, what do you want to make next? What type of projects are you envisioning, if any? Will
That's
Oogly
a
have a brother or a sister?
Yeah, definitely. I would like to use that to make some funny characters to cheer up the day. That's what I want to do. But what I'm going to do next is really explore a little bit more the tutorials at this point. Now, I think I have enough of a grip. I know more or less what is this feature, where it's positioned, what it's doing. And this is the point in which it's really good to know more advanced information. And I will take a look on the tutorials first, on the learning resources.
And I have to ask, any plans to 3D print the donut?
Now, when you ask, but I can print this donut, but I have to change the shape a little bit so I can print it on on
Maybe
two
add
pieces.
some flat surfaces.
No, I don't need flat surfaces. I can print that. I can print a lot of crazy stuff. I made a dandelion on the printer.
If you could print the dandelion, you could print anything. I'd say, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely anyone in the chat, if you haven't seen Danny's dandelion, that is an incredible model. Just a torture test for your printer, I'd say. We also have a comment in the chat. Remember, virtual clay, it doesn't cost anything and isn't wasteful to tinker with. It's a great point, Sean. Very easy to mess around. And I'm also thinking, because when I first started playing with this digital model, I immediately started thinking, okay, how would I do this in SolidWorks? How many lofts, how many extrusions, you know, and eventually the number just became so high that I was like, I, I wouldn't even attempt to try this in SolidWorks. Did you have that similar kind of train of thought in your head?
Keeping in mind what crazy things I do in SolidWorks, actually, I was a bit angry that I'm not able to find the feature that I need, and
Okay.
I'm not able to manipulate it the correct way. But this is what I shared a bit earlier, because we're talking mostly for xShape. The biggest mistake is to think how I will do that in SolidWorks and to start to try to build that with the subdivision modeling. It won't work. Just when you go in xShape, leave SolidWorks out the door and start exploring what you can do with subdivision.
Okay. Good advice. And is there any other features on the donut that you would, like to highlight that maybe were a little bit difficult to figure out or you were surprised by in your model? I don't know if we could bring up that screen again. Yeah, there it is.
Well, that, as I said, the colors were the biggest issue. Not only I was facing, but also the other champions. What was interesting, as I said, I found these groups on a later stage, and it turned out that I can arrange the models afterwards in groups after I have done them. So, like, if I grab this particular cylinder here, I can move it. I can make it a component. I can make it a linked body. I can make it a lot of things. There is really a lot of features that you can learn here. I can move the blue cylinder and the purple sprinkles, for example. It will look weird because my fillet is left over there. I have to change that. But you can just drag and drop around, rearrange, not everything, but even you can create completely new part just from part of your features that you have. as I tried to show earlier.
And
Just
are you
this.
able to move one of the cylinders made after the circular pattern?
Mm, I will receive an
I'm just
error
curious.
probably.
I haven't tried that yet.
No, in this case, it's not allowing me because it's part of the circular pattern.
Okay. But if you edit the original cylinder, then the circular pattern, then it'll shift all of the other sprinkles, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I can just, let's see which one I'm grabbing here. Oh, I just, yeah, here it is. Oh, that's actually a normal cylinder. Okay,
That's
let's,
cool. So we could shorten the. We can have a lot of fun with the sprinkles.
yeah, this manipulators, they're really great. You can just drag and drop around, and now we have oversized.
That's
And
awesome.
it's really easy to work. Maybe that's a really good point. I think that's the thing. Here, you have also standard shapes in the normal models. So that's not subdivision cylinder, that's a normal cylinder, and the spheres
Okay.
also. Um, Something that you don't have in SolidWorks.
I see. So the regular cylinders you have here, are you really just able to edit the length and the width of those shapes, whereas in subdivision, you could really start pushing and pulling each individual face of the cylinder? Is that the
Yes,
big
that's
difference
the
there?
thing. That's the difference. Here
Okay.
you can just change the diameter and the length. Of course, you can type the number too if you click here, if you want to have more exact value. Okay, the big fight dot comma is also here. uh, but in the subdivision, you can change the shape completely and to make it something really, really different. But now I'm actually next design and I'm missing the subdivision tab.
I see. And the same goes for those circular, or the, what did you call them? The sugar spheres?
Yeah, the sugar spheres.
Those were not subdivision models, they were just regular spheres.
Yes,
Okay.
when I double click it, you can see here, you can change just the. In the case of the spheres and sprinkles, the cylinders, there were no point to use the subdivision. I didn't want to manipulate the shape. Um, it stays it is, and that was the reason I was using just the normal ones. But the other cool thing, if I'm not mistaken, and I will try to prove my point now, is no matter that I'm is in XDesign, I think I can manipulate the shape. Yes. So when I try to change the subdivision modeling, it automatically moved me to xShape.
I see. So clicking any X shape body automatically brings you from a different app into X shape.
Yeah, because here I can manipulate this. I wanted to change this shape, and as you can see, it changed here to xShape. Because only here I can do that. That's something I learned today. I didn't experiment before that.
I
Yeah.
love it. We're learning new things as we model. I learned a little bit too as well. I haven't experimented a lot with the standard cylinders and the spheres like you use for the sprinkles. I've been sticking to the subdivision spheres and the subdivision cylinders, but you probably did it the right way here for the sprinkles because you're making so many iterations of them. If you're using subdivision models for that, that's probably a lot harder on your computer, a lot harder on the software. So it's probably smart to, simplify those shapes.
I'm on the opinion that if you can make it simple, make it simple.
Right.
Uh, we don't need to make it overcomplicated. In the case, as I said, in the cylinders and the sugar spheres, they're bodies that I want to manipulate. The only manipulation I want is the length, the width, the diameter, and the size, let's say it like this. So the regular ones were just enough and make it easier. For the main donut, of course, I need to manipulate the shape, but also in this case, I was making the partitions of the subdivision as the minimum that will work for me. That's also easier to work with afterwards. If you have too many points and too many lines, it will be really hard to work with the shape. Mm-hmm. And the good thing is, if at some point you realize that you're missing a line or you need it somewhere else, you can add it. You can add it when you're in the subdivision modeling. So the best way is to go as simple as possible. If you need something conditional, add it.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. It definitely helps to keep it as simple as possible. We also got another question here. Is the icing body a copied body from the top surface of the donut? So I know you said you thickened the surface and then did a trim cut. So does that mean it wasn't a copied body? It was just a thickened surface, or was it actually a new body?
It was a surface offset, then trim of the surface, and then I thickened the trimmed surface and created a solid body.
Interesting. One of the things that I realized recently about the X-apps is with the thicken command, in xShape you could thicken both surfaces and bodies, whereas in SolidWorks you could just thicken surfaces. So I thought that was a cool tidbit that you could take advantage of in xShape. And let's see, we got another comment here. Let's see. If anyone else has any questions in the chat for Danute and this awesome model, please let us know. And wow, the time has flown by. I didn't realize it's already 1 o'clock. Is there any parting wisdom, parting advice you want to share with our audience as you made this transition from parametric modeling to subdivision modeling?
I will give the advice which I give often with different words and in different shape. Is just experiment, explore, and have fun. That's when you're having fun, it's really proven by a lot of smarter people than me that helps learning better. So try with fun models.
Great advice. Love that. Definitely, I find designing things you want to design just makes you all the more likely to mess around with the software, spend more time learning it. So yeah, definitely great advice. And we also absolutely want to plug your channel, your YouTube channel, which has some great content, D Workshop. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So a great visual there. With the action figure, I have to point him out. I'm so happy that he was included in your video.
Yeah, it was a very special present, it was part of my award as the champion of the year. So that's why it has a special place. And yeah, meanwhile, we're almost at the end. I would like to say that in my channel, I'm starting a podcast sharing the experience of popular SolidWorks users around the world. And my first guest will be Joe the legend, as I like to say, Joe Lance. And this will be on 3rd of July. The time is still not decided. The date is decided. So keep a look on my channel to see when this first episode will be of the podcast.
That's awesome. Yeah, that'll be great. So we get to not just see, but hear more of your content on this podcast. So thanks for sharing that. And we also do have a SolidWorks Live design episode next week, Tips and Tricks, the 2023 edition of SolidWorks. and that's going to be with Barry Setzer from Titans of CNC on July 7th at 12 o'clock, same time. So be sure to tune into that. And we also have what's going to be a re-air of a live design we ran in April, where we got a sneak peek of some new SOLIDWORKS CAD storage, save, open versioning, and search capabilities. That's going to be with Brad Williamson and Sean O'Neill as well. So definitely tune into that episode as well. And as always, Danny, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge. You have so much of it. And congrats again on winning the SOLIDWORKS Champion of the Year 2022.
Thank you. For me, it was a pleasure too. It's always nice to be here with you guys and talk. Also, in person on 3D Experience World, it was great to meet everybody. So if somebody's wondering if you have to go to see the 3D Experience World, so you must. Yes. At least once in your lifetime.
Yes. No, I totally agree. It was my first time this year, and I could not agree more. It was amazing. So definitely come out if you're able to.
Yeah.
And that's all we have for you today. So again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.